Good evening, everybody. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Alan, Raoul's older brother. Obviously, we're not genetic brothers. He's much taller, and I am much better looking. But what we are is brothers of the heart. And Raoul, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart that you asked me to be the best man. I don't know, I just want you to know how important it is to me that you've told everybody that I am the best. So thank you for that. In addition to being Raoul's best man, I am also his shaman, his yogi, his psychic guide, spiritual mentor, holistic psychotherapist, and his organic juice maker. You haven't noticed, he's very alternative. Very alternative. So, I want to start off this evening by telling you all a love story. It's a beautiful story of how two people met. It's, of course, the story of how Raoul met me. So many years ago, before I had 3 screaming children to wake me every weekend morning at 6 a.m., I used to go to bed at 6 a.m. on the weekends, and mostly in some kind of inebriated state. Now, sometimes I would also get up early in the morning on the weekends to go with friends on junk boat trips. Now, just though because I went to bed late, drunk, doesn't mean that I didn't, still go on the junk trip. It just meant that I had to recover on this boat as it heaved and swayed in Victoria Harbor. So this is exactly what happened on the day that I met Raoul. Now, on this particular day, I remember that before getting on the boat, I was my regular white-skinned self. This is my natural color. I don't use any chemicals. But shortly after getting onto the boat, my skin turned kind of like a pukish green color. I was not feeling well. And immediately after the boat started pulling away from the pier, I'm looking over this pier and I'm like, oh my God, I made a mistake, a horrible mistake. And I thought, okay, I've got 2 choices. One, I can just jump overboard right now and swim back. Worst case scenario, I get like a tetanus infection or some kind of skin disease from the polluted water in Victoria Harbor. Or I could stay on board, tough it out, and hope that the contents of my stomach wouldn't come out and say, hello, to all these new people there on the boat. I chose the latter. And a few minutes later, I was frantically bowing down to the god of the rubbish bin. Now, I don't know if any of you have puked in public, but it's like not the best way to make new friends. Most people are going to either they're going to stare at you like you're wearing your underwear on the outside of your pants, or they're going to turn away like you're about to ask them for money. And then there's Raoul. Raoul didn't stare at me. He didn't look away. He had never met me before, but he acted, and without any regard for the potential for ricocheting collateral damage, if you know what I mean. He came over to me, asked me how I was doing, patted me on the back, dabbed the puke from my corner of my mouth, got me a glass of water. It's what you call a friend for life. I didn't embellish that at all, totally good. Okay, listen, so I've said something nice about you. You are so kind. You're such a kind friend. Everybody who knows Raoul, he's so kind-hearted. But now, I must make fun of you. So, as many of the people here know, at least Deborah, I hope that you know, Raoul has some previous experience with women. He was somewhat of the heartbreaker. Now, his typical, I should say, actually, every relationship followed this pattern. Boy meets girl. Boy dates girl. Boy likes girl. Girl loves boy. Boy runs away. You see, like, trying to hold on to Raoul is like trying to hold on to water. You can't grab and squeeze it because it's going to get scared and run away through your fingers. You have to cup it gently in your hand. Now, in the psychiatric profession, they call this a fear of commitment. Now, as I said in the beginning, I am his holistic psychotherapist. I made up the holistic part, but I seriously am his psychotherapist, and he's really needed one. So I've spent a lot of time figuring what was going on in this head, this beautiful little head of his. And I'm going to share with you why. Now, I know maybe what you're thinking right now, and I'm just going to say it for you. Alan, are you an actual psychotherapist? Admittedly, I am not a psychotherapist. I've never formally practiced. Alan, do you have a degree in psychotherapy? Admittedly, I have no training at all. No training. Have you ever taken a class in psychotherapy? Admittedly, I've never taken even a single class, but trust me, as they know, I sound like I know what I'm talking about. So hear me out. The reason for Mr. Preller's fear of commitment in the past is he's an only child. Hear me out on this. You see, with an only child, it's all about me, me, me. Your entire life growing up, you're the center of attention. I should be looking at the parents. Every photo, he's the star. Every photo. He never once wore hand-me-down clothes, ever. And he never had to share anything, ever. But there's a dark side of being an only child. It can be lonely. And eventually, every child learns. Every only child learns. Now, it may take a long time. It may take 30 or 40 years. But we eventually learn that we're not meant to be alone. We're meant to have siblings. We're meant to have friends. And we are meant to have a partner. Because sharing is what makes life beautiful. So, what ultimately got Raoul over this fear of commitment? When you find the right person, you may fight it, you may struggle, you may sometimes even think that you want to run away. But the right person makes you want to stay. And Deborah, you are the right person. So, as you enter this beautiful partnership, let me share now with you some words of advice. Now, I know what you're thinking. I'm not a real psychotherapist, so why should I be able to give them any advice? This is true. But what I have is the perfect marriage. And the perfect marriage gives me the right to give them advice. In fact, I think it's an obligation. Even if they haven't asked me. And definitely when I have this microphone. So, first piece of advice. Compromise. You cannot have everything that you want in this marriage. You have to learn to compromise. So, Raoul, whenever that Deborah tells you that something's important, fight it. Disagree with her. much more peaceful in your home. Deborah, make sure you tell him everything is important. Second piece of advice. Friendship. You know, passions will ebb and flow, but if you have friendship at the heart of your marriage, you have a friend for life. So, Raoul, make sure that you treat Deborah as your number one friend. Deborah, make sure you keep him in the top 10. I could go on all night, but this is the final piece of advice. Now, just a warning, this is graphic. Graphic material here, warning. Parents of the bride and groom, you should leave. People with sensitive people get offended easily, you should leave. I won't turn my back. But if you're still here when I turn my back around, that means you've been warned. Final piece of advice. Blowjobs. As the saying goes, a DJ a day keeps other women away. So, final piece of advice, Deborah. If you want to keep Raoul happy, you must keep him happy. Raoul, the best part of this advice is you don't need to do anything. So, I ask you all to raise your glass in honor of Raoul and Deborah and wish for them, along with me, a life full of peace, of friendship, and a life full of lots of love. Lakai.
Awesome. Thank you, Ellen.